Manor Lords hits early access in just a few days, delivering a chance for many people to dive in on a medieval kingdom and combat simulator. You've undoubtedly seen a slew of content coming out from various content creators regarding what the game will look like when you get your hands on it on Friday, but in this video, I want to take a step back and answer the question, should you buy early access for Manor Lords? And that really comes down to taking a look at the game in its current iteration, what the future of the game is going to be like on an abstract timeline, and tempering expectations ahead of Friday so you just don't get burned. Now, the way I do things here is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So with that being said, this entire video is really an op-ed piece where I'll be talking about the issues with early access on a broader spectrum, but also discuss that this game has been in development for a little over 5 years with a single developer, Greg. He contracts out most of the work and then goes and does all of the development on his own. I think realistically, we're looking at another 2 to 3, maybe even 4 years before this game launches. The game as is awesome and worthy of so much praise. It pushes so many boundaries of this genre. I don't know why I said it like that. But boundaries of this genre by combining a lot of elements of a lot of other games. I personally cannot wait for it to get better than it already is. But if you're not willing to wait that amount of time, then there's no reason to buy early access. Just wait and get it at launch. The way I look at early access is, do I want to help support the dev by giving them dev dollars up front, or trying to be on the ground level of feedback to help the future of the game? If you like those things, then by all means, please help support Greg. I got BG3's early access because Larian is a great studio. I played 10 hours or so at the launch of early access and tabled it until the game came out. That's the same mentality I'll be applying to Manor Lords. I've played a good chunk of it now, learned quite a bit, but I'll be excited to come back at major watershed moments in the development of the game to see how those mechanics have changed. So please, do not get pressured into buying this game because everyone's hyping it up, myself included. It's a single map with a limitation on all of the very vast and awesome mechanics that will be coming down the pipe. Conversely, don't give into the hate towards early access if you truly love a title or a company. It's your money, it's your life. Buy the game and support who you want. Fuck off what everyone else thinks. But that's really the too long didn't watch this entire video. If that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe if this video helped you, as those things do help me out in a huge way. Lastly, if you want to help support the channel, you can purchase Manor Lords via my Nexus Store when it goes live on the 26th. You'll find a link below in the description, but you'll get a Steam key directly from the developer, Greg. The purchase button won't go active until the actual launch, but please always do what is best for you and your wallet. And I will be streaming Manor Lords on Friday and Saturday. Since I was given a copy, I'm going to purchase 2 copies on Steam as a means of supporting the developer. So you can go ahead and watch those streams and enter into a chance to win a copy of Manor Lords if you want to check those out. Again, it's going to be Friday and Saturday. Let's get started here on should you buy early access for Manor Lords. So when you boot up Manor Lords, it's going to look just like this. You're going to press new game. And this is kind of what I want to show off real quick is, you go through this whole scenario. This is the same thing as the demo, and you jump into this location and you see pretty much everything that the game has to offer as far as what's currently accessible. It's the early access map. That's it. And this is something that I just want to show off to kind of show you that this is all that you'll be able to do. You have your 3 templates of scenario, which kind of changes how fast combat comes your way, either no combat or lots of combat or in between. But if you want more combat, more maps, all these things, those are definitely coming. But I just don't want you to jump into early access come Friday and think to yourself, wait a minute, so I can't play more than just this? No, that is all that is accessible right now. And you have, of course, your difficulties, and you can kind of change this out. There's still tens, if not a couple hundred hours in here. And that's not a low amount of time, right? That's a lot of time you can invest in this game. You can have huge, fun, big battles, all sorts of great stuff that you can do. But if you jump into the first map, you go, okay, I've seen this map enough times on enough content creators' streams or YouTube channels, or I played it during the demo. I'd like to do a different map. You cannot do so. So just to jump further into the game here too, we can see my current town doing its thing. And this is an older save too. I've learned a lot of cool things already that are not really applicable anymore. But as I just kind of zoom all the way out, this is that one map. So you'll have these regions you can still take and still have fun with. And this is, again, still a good chunk of playtime. I think by about 50, 60 hours, I still hadn't expanded out from here. So you still have a lot of stuff that you can do and a lot of fun things that can happen. I don't want you to think that I'm saying, hey, yeah, don't play this game on early access because there's nothing to do. There's still a shit ton to do, but I want, again, to temper your expectations coming into that fateful day so that you know exactly what you're getting into. It's this map. It's all the fun mechanics that you've got access to. And just to kind of show off and talk about a lot of that stuff too, we are limited in our overall village sizes that we can get up to. We are limited too in what we can do with our... our retinues, where are they? I have to... Yeah, I've got to actually... Oh, here it is. Retinue customization. Well, if you click this button, there's a big retinue customization that for some reason is not jumping up right now because I'm still constructing the manor. But the retinue customization is not all there. All of the quote-unquote talents or perks are not all there. Most of the policies are not there. And the production tab is completely empty. So... there's stuff in this game that is coming, and it's still going to make the game even crazier and cooler and better. I just want you to know that like you're not going to be jumping in going, oh, cool, I'm just going to go hard in the paint and in all of the war or smithing style of development tree. Well, you're kind of going to hit a natural windbreak, right? Locked in early access, work is in progression. And you'll have a lot of those things start to come up here as you kind of go through stuff and try to push into different things. You'll hit certain things that'll lock you out of doing stuff. So just showing that stuff off so that you, again, for the fifth time, know that before you jump into Friday. But let me talk now about the overall game, its scope, and so on and so forth. So I think that Manor Lords is going to be probably one of the best games of the what do you even call this genre, right? Like civilization strategy. Like you're building out a civilization. There's a lot of strategy elements to it. It's got a lot of things from a lot of other games. But the developer has even been very clear in saying like, hey, I'm not those games. I don't want to be those games. Please stop comparing me to those games or saying that I'm better than them. Like I'm not Total War. Total War is its own thing. He even says right here, Manor Lords is not a Total War competitor. It's a city builder with battles. Yes, battles are there, but not as huge or as frequent as some of you might expect. The majority of gameplay is focused on city building and management. Another one he says here, it's not an empire management style grand strategy game either. That's a CK3 for Crusader Kings 3 for example. The map has regions, but you won't be able to conquer the whole of Europe, nor have marriages or anything like that. The game is designed to play at a much smaller scale. Again, if you want to compare this to Bannerlord of it or Age of Empires or StarCraft, he says this is not a fast-paced RTS. If you played KCD or Mountain Blade, Manor Lords is a different type of game. There is a visit mode in Manor Lords which allows you to walk around your town, but it's an experimental cosmetic bonus feature. The game is really meant to be played from the bird's eye perspective. So you have a lot of these things about what Manor Lord is, and a lot of things that are being compared across a lot of popular media. People are saying like, it's like this meets that, it's that and then this. It's not. It's what the developer is trying to kind of say is that the game is its own thing. It pulls maybe inspiration or what have you from other things, but a lot of people are going to get the wrong impression jumping into Friday thinking that they're going to be jumping into rampant base building like Age of Empires and StarCraft. It's not. They're going to be commanding their armies at the front of the armed forces like Bannerlord. They're not going to do that. You're going to conquer all of Europe. Nay, sir. We're going to get into a massive, huge scale on the scale of Total War. Not that either. And it's reminiscent of a single lord within a grander system, right? This is the feudal system. Your armies at the time were much smaller. You didn't have these big grandiose battles that you think that were part of the Middle Ages. Those were only real big pivotal battles that were led by large heads of state. They weren't just a simple barons and dukes kind of duking it out, to use this term again. Those fights were primarily militia and a bunch of mercenaries with their house guard, their men-at-arms, right? They're a much smaller scale of fighting. And that's what we're going to be doing here with Manor Lords. And I think, too, is that the roadmap that the developers kind of talked about is it's not huge. He's like, no, I'm sorry, not huge. It's not set in stone. He said, I've learned not to create a roadmap because it just kind of either you're over-promising and under-delivering or under-promising and over-delivering. It's one or the other, right? And you always want to kind of fall into that under-promise, over-deliver. So he said he's wanted to adopt the philosophy of listen, verify, and implement. And that is what the first kind of month of patches is going to be. It's not going to be, hey, thanks for jumping into early access. At the end of month 1, here's a ton of content. No, it's, hey, now that you guys have all been playing this game on a wider scale, I can really drill down on optimization. I can find out where these memory leaks are. Whatever it is, he's going to be working on those things. And he is working on possibly opening up a kind of limited closed patch system that allows us to kind of test some features and what have you. But by and large, don't jump into this game like a Valheim, right? Valheim had some pretty cool content drop very recently after its launch, but then they realized, hey man, we jumped into too deep of a pool, right? We launched this game, it got huge acclaim, and now we need to kind of release out more patches than we had anticipated. We can't jump as readily into content as we wanted, which brings me into my statement about early access as a whole. Early access is a really good system. I am all for early access in video games when it's done right. And I think that the examples of it being done right are so far and few compared to them just kind of seeming like, okay, well, we have to push something out to meet some sort of business goal. Let's push out this game into early access. Manor Lords looks like it's going to fall into the arena of an early access done right, because it's going to be very slow. It's going to focus on stability. It's going to give you a taste of what the game has, followed by probably a much larger launch. Very similar to Baldur's Gate 3, right? Baldur's Gate 3, we got access to portions of Act 1, pretty much the whole like front end of Act 1. And then they would release classes here and there. You could kind of jump through stuff if you wanted to. They changed around companions, all sorts of stuff. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing from Manor Lords. And early access, again, it's become such a bad word, right? It's kind of fallen onto the same sword that pre-ordering has. Pre-ordering, for those that don't know, used to come from a culture of video game retail, in that large, big box stores could get large amounts of games. Smaller stores, like your smaller, more independent EB Games at the times, or GameStop before it became a massive conglomerate crazy shithouse that I used to work for, they had to pretty much request a certain amount of copies or they would never get those copies to them. So pre-ordering had a use at one point. And now it's not. It's more of like a marketing shtick. How can I get you to basically give me your money ahead of time so that I can kind of create projections on my back end? And it's corporate America. Now, early access has kind of become a lot of the same thing, in that at one point it was, hey, how do I basically get dev dollars to finish making this game, because I'm at like the 60% line, but I just can't finish, so we don't have the money. That's what early access was at one point. But now it has just become a means for people to release games and then kind of, slow bleed out their development across a couple years. Then maybe it launches into 1.0. I think that there are very few games whose 1.0 launch I have been as excited for as I have for Baldur's Gate 3. I'm really excited for V Rising's 1.0 launch, or Songs of Conquest, which is your Heroes of Might and Magic clone, or well, not clone, but it's got a very, very similar threads. Those kind of smaller indie titles that don't use early access as a way to kind of poach money from people. And again, I'm not saying Manor Lords is that at all. It is definitely not that case. I'm just saying that early access has become a dirty word, and I don't think that dirty word here applies to Manor Lords, because Greg is so transparent, and he has been transparent since Banner Lord came out. Banner Lords came out, and then he was, well, hey, I'm also working on this game called Manor Lords, and he was just showing stuff off on his Twitter. Here's what I'm working with, here's what I'm doing, and it grew so much hype from just simply his little snippets of information, which quickly overwhelmed him. Those early days of 2020 when he was showing off, he was like, uh-oh, oh no. So I'm excited for it, but I don't want you to think that jumping into the early access for Manor Lords is going to be a fast process. And I don't want you to think that that means that this is a scummy developer. It means it's a developer who's taking their time, who is a single one-man show. That too. But what does the future hold for Manor Lords? And we really don't know. We don't know. Right? We've seen some snippets of stuff on Twitter posts. We've seen some snippets of stuff in the game that says, hey, not accessible right now in early access, right? We know that retinue customization is coming. We know there's a larger scope for a lot of our development points, or quote unquote talent points, when it comes to your village's kind of development system. We know that there's more coming with the other two tabs in that menu, right? When we look at like processing procedures, whatever the hell the other two are. But we know that more of that stuff is coming. And we know, too, that this will eventually be able to jump into castles. At least that's what I remember seeing. And all those things are going to make for a really awesome game. And we don't have any kind of timeline on them, like I said before. He has specifically said, I do not plan on releasing a roadmap yet. I've made a mistake once or twice before of promising and working on a future only to find out that the testers didn't care as much as I did and they actually wanted something else. So I think that if you're going to be jumping into this, like I've said many times in this video, expect a slower process. Expect a game that's going to come out in a handful of years. Expect any money that you throw at this to just go directly to the development of the game versus like, hey, why aren't there new features in this game immediately? Just not going to be that way. Just one-man show. And I think that the future for this game is exciting on a lot of different levels. It's exciting for what it does for Manor Lords. But I think that there's something that we can kind of look at when we look at a game like Valheim, Baldur's Gate 3, Manor Lords, Enshrouded in a lot of ways. When these kind of indie games hit their early access kind of ramps and everything, it's hard to call. It's weird to call Larian an indie studio. I mean, it kind of is. Or you look at other games like War Tales or some of the other sort of stuff that's kind of come through those mills. They set a new bar. They set a new precedent. And Manor Lords is looking to set a pretty damn high bar for the genre. Yes, it is not all the things that Greg was mentioning. You know, it's not an empire builder. It's not a Total War grand battle game. It's not a lead your army from the front game. But I think that after Manor Lords really starts to percolate, as it were, into the broader gaming, whatever, stratosphere, games are going to have to start borrowing some of those mechanics, or at least that complexity, or at least the way that the UI management works alone. The way, one thing that I really love about Manor Lords is that it doesn't have the rigid style of city builders or other strategy games that you typically see. Hey, you're going to make things on a square grid, and that's how it's going to be, and don't worry about anything else. There is a lot of fluidity to the way that the Manor Lords UI works. And I think that alone, that UX of having this very fluid, dynamic, kind of pinch and move things kind of capability, almost like you're working in like a Photoshop, is something that I hope to see, if nothing else, hope to see across other strategy games, which still have this very rigid style and UX that it just feels clunky when you compare games to the modern era. So expect a lot of fun things. I don't know what a lot of those fun things are. Hopefully in the next month or two, we'll start to see some of the bigger plans or some of the things that Greg is working on. But this just kind of gives you an idea that we don't know what the future holds. And he's going to react to how we react to the game, right? Like, hey, yeah, this is all really good and fun, but this is the feature that I'm really hoping for, man. And he's even said like that, or just a little bit ago, he said, hey, I'm not going to just simply work on a feature and then implement it. I'm going to basically listen to what you guys say and then start implementing it. So I'm excited to see how that progresses for Manor Lords. And really at that, it brings our video here to a close. I wanted to kind of just take a step back, like I said, and rather than just throwing another game guide at you for a game you can't even play for a couple days, I wanted to just help you understand what early access looks like for Manor Lords, rather than seeing all these hype videos. Again, myself included, I released a hype video to help you really get a sense for what you're getting into as far as the amount of content you can play. I think that it's really easy to take a look at the sound bites and the little individual video bites of what myself and other content creators create, right? Like, oh man, I just watched a 4-hour stream and it was awesome. But that might be the depth of the entirety of what you jump into, is that level of 4 hours worth of mechanics recycled a bunch of times over and over. And as you expand your village and getting these things and that thing and these things, the game does have layered mechanics and it does get better over time for sure. But there's a definite cap on how much that can go because of what's available to you in this early access. And I will be releasing game guides. I've got beginner's guides planned. I've got, the best start in Manor Lords, that kind of shit, all planned for the 24th, when you can actually jump into the game. I just didn't want to bloat all that out there and have you guys just kind of blow right through it and go, well, yeah, I've already kind of looked at those things. I'll just wait until the game goes live. I'd rather help you out when you're actually trying to get started rather than trying to preempt your start. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If there's anything you want to see on Manor Lords that you're maybe a little confused on, you know what? I've seen a lot of people covering farming, but how does it really work and so on and so forth. Hint, if you're doing farming, just make a bunch of small fields. Don't make one large field. I've learned that the hardest way possible. But again, let me know what you want to see in the comment section below, or how you're feeling about the Manor Lords Early Access. Have you seen all that you wanted to see? And are you just going to skip Early Access or wait until a big patch to finally jump in? Or are you going to jump in, play the game for a little bit, or is this just the thing that you've been waiting for and you're going to play this thing exhaustively on repeat until there's patch after patch? Let me know in the comment section below. Love to know how you guys feel about Manor Lords. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.